Talkabout: Making Distance Matter with Small Groups in Massive Classes by Ryan Taylor. Brief summary. The paper examines massive online classes that are globally diverse and want to harness diversity to improve engagement and learning. It uses a peer discussion system called Talkabout, conducted with 3 studies with 2,600 students from 2 classes. The paper illustrates the potential of leveraging diversity in online classes and introduces Talkabout curricula for small, geographically diverse groups in massive classes. Online classes through Coursera and Open edX use the Talkabout discussion system, which involves Google Hangout. Talkabout places students in a large online classes into groups of 2 to 9 students, each from different parts of the world. The system connects students through guided synchronous video discussions. Enables students to access and interact with peers in different cultures, levels of income, beliefs about learning to improve educational experiences, making them deeper and more realistic. Talkabout moves away from the traditional text-based discussions as asynchronous text channels that inhibit trust information. It moves forward to the use of synchronous channels such as video that improves participants' sense of belonging and willingness to collaborate. Video also supports multimodal communication and nonverbal cues, which are better suited to help discussions. It introduces structured interaction and curriculum that leverages diversity. Talkabout interface. The Talkabout interface guides the instructors to setting up the course discussion and agenda for students. Students choose discussion time, they log in at the selected time, and are assigned to groups. Discussions occur through Google Hangouts platform for multi-person video and audio chat and exists only for the duration of the time the session is set for. Talkabout application shows instructors' discussion agenda on the left side of the user screen, while the video chat occurs on the right side. The anatomy of Talkabout discussions. It follows a distinct conversational pattern. Formal introductions from each user, then informal moderators emerge through the interactions. Students were either speakers or spectators, whether they took part or not in the actual discussions. The participants with low bandwidth usually were spectators that used the text chat feature as a way to engage more efficiently with the other students in the discussions. Research study number 1. Do discussions help performance? The method used was they randomly assigned students in discussions to be allowed to speak or be spectators for the first 5 weeks of the discussions in the classes. The hypothesis of the study was engaging in the discussions would help motivate students to engage with other course components like their quizzes and exams. The result of the study, discussion increased class participation, marginally improved grades. The effect was short-lived, but engagement helped improve the grades overall. Research question number 2. Does diversity help performance? The method used was recording the students' IP addresses and assign them to groups in either high diversity or low diversity groups. The hypothesis was members of high diversity groups would have higher scores on the post-discussion questionnaires and quizzes. The result? Students in more diverse groups performed better. Research question number 3. Large-scale field experiment. The method was they would place students into random discussions based on the order of their login arrival. Participating in more geographically diverse discussions would lead to better course performance and would improve retention and class engagement. This was the hypothesis of the 3rd study. The result, students in more diverse groups performed better on tests but had no support through long-term engagement retention. Problem statements in the paper. The paper addressed how to harness diversity to improve engagement in learning. Another problem statement was, can connecting students from around the world through video discussion improve performance and engagement? Another problem statement discussed was, can diverse online classrooms create benefits that are largely unavailable in classroom settings? Thus, the geographically diverse aspect of being able to connect through the video chat. Human-computer interaction theories and principles. In this paper, through human-computer interaction, users can expand horizons, experiences, and learning, bringing together users or students from all different walks of life and corners of the globe. This paper also examined careful interface design that helps make it easy for multicultural and wide variety of users to understand and use discussion system. Another theory or principle that was touched upon was through evaluating the user needs in online education, the use of discussion box and video chat in real time improved the learning. Lastly, tapering the design of the system and the limits for the students, such as availability of discussion and group size, help facilitate efficient learning for participants. The significance of the research. One of the significances is it showed that allowing students to participate in real-time video discussions with peers increases participation in other aspects of the coursework. Marginally improved students' performance compared to not being able to communicate through real-time video, which means the students perform better when they were using the real-time video as opposed to when they were interacting through text and chat discussions. Another significant point of the research was human-computer interaction is becoming very necessary for online interactions and showing that it can be used to be an intricate part of online education and education in general. Significance of the research continued. By carefully designing the course discussions with the system to decide groups based on geographic locations of the users performed better. Some more significance was accessing and analyzing the user information can facilitate better performance overall for the students. Lastly, the geographic diversity harnessed in the correct way can be an educational asset. Significance of research continued. Using the technology in a way to help students feel less isolated and more involved in more diverse groups by way of video chat led to better educational experience and performance. Another significant part of the research is distance does not have to be a barrier, but a gateway to better education. And lastly, embracing and designing for diversity can enable other innovations along the lines in the future. My thoughts on the paper. I thought that using the technological advances that have occurred in the last 10 years as a tool to further education is important to the future of the education, especially online learning, which is becoming more and more of a trend. I also thought that no longer thinking of distance as a barrier, but as a gateway to improve performance of education will only become more and more normal. Therefore, I think traditional classrooms will still exist, but I think that they will also have other aspects of, like what we saw in this paper, of growing diversity using video chat. I also thought that the design to a system such as Talkabout is so important to the user experience and user interaction because the design must be universally functional and understood. And it's also important because if the design isn't carefully laid out, you have a great array of different users using the Talkabout discussions and interfaces that it's one of those things where everybody has to be able to use it, or other people will be at a disadvantage if they can't figure it out. My thoughts. Studies such as this one also show how important human and computer interaction and usability are not only sectors such as education, but internationally around the world. So it's not something that we just see here in the US, but all over the world. I also feel that in the future, traditional classroom settings will use aspects such as international video chat in order to enhance educational performance, just like online classrooms already do. How would I conduct the study differently? One of the things that I don't think that the study touched upon, and it did bring up once or twice, is the factor of the broadband connection. I would like to know, is a broadband connection affecting the result of engagement and performance? In other words, I feel that looking at the differences in the bandwidth for the users may also be a factor in the overall experience that they have through their educational experience online. I would hypothesize that although students with lower bandwidth still interacted in discussions, their experience would have improved overall if their connections were also improved. Thus, if they had a low bandwidth, that compared to if they had a high bandwidth, that their experience would be better overall if they were all functioning at a high bandwidth. How would I also conduct the study differently? I would break the students into discussion groups with 4 to 5 users with high bandwidth and 1 to 4 users in the group with low bandwidth. Just as study number 1 did, I would analyze each student's performance in the post-discussion quiz and questionnaires. I would then analyze the results to see if there's a correlation between the high bandwidth performance on the questionnaires and quiz and the low bandwidth users' performance on the discussions, post-discussion questionnaire and quizzes. And I would analyze what the data about their performance. Thank you for listening.